He had been driving a taxi for 15 years. Long nights filled with silence, broken only by the hum of the engine and the occasional passenger who came and went with. Hurried words and eyes fixed on their phones. And in those years his heart had grown weary, his hope thin, his prayers quiet, because he no longer believed anyone was listening. His life had become a pattern of work and exhaustion. Debts waiting at home, a broken marriage behind him, children who barely called, and inside he carried an emptiness he could not name. He was alive but not really living. A man who had seen too many nights blur into each other, his hands gripping the wheel until they were numb, his eyes staring at traffic lights that turned red and green without meaning. And he wondered often if God had abandoned him, or if perhaps God had never been there at all, because nothing in his days gave him reason to believe. Not the bills piling up on the kitchen counter, not the silence of his phone when he wished one of his kids would call, not the ache in his chest when he remembered how love had once filled his home, but now only memories remained. And he told himself that survival was enough, that breathing and working were all he could manage. Yet even in that resignation, that deeper hunger gnawed at him, the hunger to matter, to be seen, to know his life was not just a shadow drifting through endless streets. Then one rainy evening, as he pulled his cab to the curb under a flickering streetlight, a figure stepped into the shadows and opened the door. A passenger unlike any other, and the moment the man slid into the back seat, the air shifted, not with perfume or cologne, but with something he could not describe, a quiet presence that made the noise of the city fade as if the world itself was holding its breath. The driver adjusted his mirror to glance back, expecting a face tired from the rain, but what he saw was a calm expression, eyes that seemed to carry a depth he could not measure. And though the man looked ordinary, his presence felt extraordinary, as if the rain itself softened around him, as if the darkness bent to make room for his light. The driver asked the usual question, "Where to?" And the passenger spoke softly, "Just drive." And though those words should have made him uneasy, he felt no fear, only a strange sense of peace. So he pulled away from the curb, and the tires cut through the wet street as they moved through the city that seemed quieter than ever. Neon signs glowing in puddles, traffic lights stretching long reflections on the asphalt. And minutes passed while the driver's heart wrestled with a strange stirring, a pressure, a need to speak, words forming on his tongue, though no one had asked. And before he could stop himself, he began to talk. Not small talk, but the secrets he had buried for years. He told this stranger about his life, about the hours alone, the disappointments, the way he had stopped believing because nothing ever changed. He confessed that he felt invisible, unwanted, forgotten. He said he sometimes wondered if anyone would notice if he disappeared. He admitted that sometimes he thought of ending it, but never had the courage. And the stranger listened without interrupting, eyes fixed out the window as if watching something beyond the rain. And then he finally spoke, his voice steady, every word weighted with meaning. "You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are seen, you are loved, you were never alone." And the driver felt his chest tighten, his throat burn, tears pressing at the corners of his eyes. He gripped the wheel harder as if steadying himself. He whispered, "How could you know?" And the stranger replied, "I know because I was sent to tell you. God has never left you. He has waited for you to look back. He has waited for you to call his name again." The words cut through years of silence like light through darkness. And the driver shook his head, fighting the flood of emotion, saying, "But I am broken, I am guilty, I have failed too many times." And the man leaned forward just enough for the driver to see the intensity in his gaze. And he said, "Broken people are the ones God loves to heal. Guilty hearts are the ones he came to forgive. Failures are the ones he lifts to stand again. You are the reason. He still waits with open arms." The driver could not hold back his tears. They ran down his cheeks, mixing with the glow of the streetlights reflected in the windshield. His vision blurred as he pulled the cab to the side of the road, hands trembling, voice shaking as he asked, "Why now? Why me?" And the man answered, "Because tonight you were ready to listen. And when you cry out, he will answer. When you take one step toward him, he will run to you." The driver closed his eyes and whispered for the first time in years, "God, if you can still hear me, please don't leave me. Please forgive me. Please help me." And as the words left his lips, a warmth spread through his chest like fire and comfort all at once. A presence filling the emptiness he had carried so long. And he knew something real was happening. Not imagination, not coincidence, but God himself meeting him in the front seat of his taxi. He opened his eyes and looked into the rearview mirror, ready to thank the stranger, but the seat was empty. The back door closed, no sound, no movement. The passenger was gone, vanished without trace, the rain still tapping gently against the glass. The street empty, his heart pounding with awe and fear and wonder. He sat there unable to breathe, realizing he had just encountered something beyond explanation. A messenger, an angel, sent for him, only him, to remind him he was not forgotten. The rest of that night he drove with tears still drying on his face, but a smile breaking through. Every light seemed brighter, every sound sharper. He noticed the faces of people on the sidewalks, and for the first time in years he prayed silently for them. Because he knew if God could reach into his darkness, he could reach into theirs. When his shift ended, he did not collapse into bed exhausted. He stayed awake, holding the steering wheel of his parked cab, whispering, "Thank you. Thank you for not leaving me. Thank you for remembering me." The following days he changed in ways no one could explain. He spoke to his children with warmth they had not heard in years. He called his ex-wife and apologized for his failures. He began to greet strangers with kindness. He walked into a small church on a Sunday morning with fear in his chest but hope in his eyes. And when the music rose and voices lifted around him, he cried again, but this time not from despair, from joy, because he knew he was home. From that night on, he told his story to anyone who would listen. Passengers who stepped into his taxi, expecting silence, heard about the night an angel rode with him, about the words that pierced his soul, about the God who refused to give up on him. Some laughed, some stayed quiet, some asked questions, but many felt tears rise in their own eyes, and he realized his story was no longer just his. It was a seed planted in every heart that heard it. He no longer drove just for wages. He drove as a messenger, each mile a testimony, each fare a chance to share the love that had saved him. He understood now why the angel had come, not only to rescue him, but to turn him into a witness. A man who had been lost but was found, who had been blind but now saw, who had been empty but was filled. And though he still faced long nights, bills, struggles, he faced them with faith, because he knew God was with him, and that changed everything. And tonight, as you hear this story, you may feel like that taxi driver once felt, invisible, forgotten, weighed down by failures and silence. But let this be the moment you realize you are seen. You are loved. You are not alone. God has not abandoned you. He waits for your voice. He waits for your step. And He will meet you where you are, even in the middle of an ordinary night, even in the front seat of your own struggles. Let tonight be the night you whisper His name and let His presence fill you. Because your story is not over. Your story can begin again. And if this story touched your heart, I invite you to share it, to leave a comment, to subscribe so you can hear more stories of faith and hope. Because here at Faith Light Stories, we believe no life is too broken to be healed. No night is too dark to be lit, and no person is too lost to be found. Let this be the moment your journey begins.